Welcome to 4am Art, and in this video I'm going to show you step by step how to draw this lily in 3/4 view. This is a follow-up to my other video where I draw this lily in a more simple, straightforward frontal view. So let's get started by using a pencil, and it's pointing to the left. I've got the center line marked, and the petals will start from the center and flow outward. Notice that I start with the center line of each petal first, and then follow up with the edges of the petal, both the left and the right side. One thing to keep in mind when drawing something like this where there are a bunch of different parts, always start from the front and go to the back. That way the overlapping is pretty straightforward and you don't miss anything. So this is just a rough layout of all the structures, and once you're happy with the general layout, I'll go ahead and start using a pen to render it. Here I'm just using a cheap Micron pen, and notice that I don't follow my pencil marks exactly. You want to keep the petals, the edges, natural looking, so they will be irregular. So I've drawn in the front petals already. The next parts would be these reproductive structures, the anthers, adding a little bit of detail, and then the filaments. All of these structures, of course, are in front of the petals that are in the back. Alright, so now once I've finished with those, I'll start drawing the petals that are more towards the back, and do the most posterior petals like this one last. Again, keep the edges irregular. Doesn't have to be exact. One thing to keep in mind, when you have posterior structures, you want to draw through the front structures initially with your pencil, just so the lines will actually be correct as far as from where it starts to go behind the front petal to where you see it again. The line will be continuous. Here I've switched to a slightly thinner Micron pen for the details. And notice that I'll put interrupted lines toward the end of each of these lines, not all of them. But this helps to indicate both the surface texture and the details of each petal, but it also helps with shading, and we're starting to add volume and shape to the petals so that it doesn't look flat. So of course, when using a pen and ink technique, the closer the pen marks are, the more pen marks there are in a particular spot, the darker the tonal value. And you can see that towards the center there, where the lines are close together, and you can see that the tone there will be darker. And we'll do more as far as that goes with the shading as we go along. So just adding more detail. Keep in mind you don't have to draw these exactly as you see it, but do it fairly close. Use your artistic mental process as far as how you want it to look. And here I'm starting to add some of the finer details for this particular lily. Lilies are different. There's a lot of different varieties. This particular one has these little spots that are a little bit thicker towards the center, and they become smaller as they go out towards the tips. And here I'm just using quick dots more towards the middle of the petal, just to indicate these details. Alright, so more details here by the stem. And what we'll do is we'll go ahead and add some buds here, lilies that haven't opened yet. And same thing as far as detail lines, kind of interrupted. And that same principle again here, where I draw the front bud first, or perhaps this is one bud but like a couple petals that are starting to open, but regardless, the structures that are behind will be drawn last. Once you're happy with everything here, we can start erasing and fine-tuning everything. So here I'm going to add some more darker tones, darkening the anthers with my pen, and you'll see here that the filaments have kind of gotten lost amongst some of the detail lines. So I'm going to reinforce them by going over it again. So one thing I really like to do with both pencil and pen, but especially pen, is to vary the line thickness. You don't want everything to be the same width, so you can go over the lines, or you can just use a thicker pen, just so you get different line thicknesses. So here I'm just reinforcing the darker tones by adding more lines, and now you can really see where there's some shadows, like right here. I would call this a cast shadow, where this particular petal, the front petals, are casting a shadow onto the center section. And this is what I was talking about earlier with going over the lines again, and just to make it thicker, but mostly towards the base of the petal. As far as line width, one thing to keep in mind is thicker line width would be used more for the frontal structures, and the thinner lines would be the structures that are more towards the back. It's kind of a principle of perspective and showing depth. And again, the line is not all the same width, even on the same particular structure. So now that we're pretty much done with our lily, I'm just going to go ahead and add some color. And you can see from the view, from the little picture there on the upper left, our final image. And I'm using watercolor pencils here because it's easy to get a lot of color in without using much water. So I'm just putting this in dry, using a couple of different shades of violet. Here it's a little bit darker, and you could just leave it like this, as just like a colored pencil, but what I'll do is I'll just go over it with a water brush and kind of spread it around a little bit, get a nice smooth gradient of the color. So I hope you found this video helpful and useful, and if so, please like, share, and subscribe, and leave a comment. Let me know what you think. And remember to check out this other video on drawing a lily. Bye.